Tables got him back to prominence with the bloody lip and everything else, and Drake May's doing his thing. Justin Herbert, some major questions need to be asked now, and I know both of his tackles were out. Got to be mindful of that. And he got knocked around, he got sacked, he got bruised, but at some point, when you're the quarterback, and I saw him take responsibility for this after the game, that's what leaders do, even when it's not entirely your fault. The greatest leaders will take it upon themselves and say, you know what, I got to be better. And he does, because now he's 0-3 in the playoffs. And there'll be serious questions about that guy. And I know how much Jim Harbaugh loves him. And he does. He loves Justin Herbert. That's one of the main reasons why he took that job. That, of course, and, he jumped off a sinking ship at the University of Michigan. But, nobody needs to talk about that except Nick Wise, of course. But now questions about Justin Herbert. And is this guy built for the big stage in January? And so far, the answer is no, he's not. And he needs to do whatever he needs to do to try and rectify that and reverse that narrative. Now, having a healthy O-line come back, that's certainly going to help things moving forward. But that game last night was the worst of the 5 games that we saw. The other 4 games were epic. Saturday night, epic. Bears-Packers, epic. Longest standing rivalry in the NFL, epic. And I think the reason why Bears versus Packers has popped all of these years is because of the incredible disdain and the animosity that continues to exist between these two NFL franchises. And that's always been the case. The coaches will change. The players will change. The attitudes towards one another has never changed. The Bears hate the Packers hate the Bears. You got 2 head coaches that would love to choke each other out, and Matt LaFleur and Ben Johnson. And I thought the Packers were well on their way to winning that game. 21-3, are you kidding me? And you saw this occur last month in December. They had a game very similar to this, and the Packers choked. And guess what? Oh, they're not going to do it again. They happen again. Now, there's going to be a lot of narratives out there, but just think about this. Look, Caleb Williams was extraordinary. That 4th down completion where he's rolling to his left and he finds Rome Odunze, the Bears were down 27-16 at the time. That was the throw of the year in the NFL. You play 270-plus games in the regular season, and now all these games in the playoffs, you will never find a bigger moment and a better throw in the NFL than that throw late Saturday night in Chicago. And that, by the way, that building was absolutely bonkers. They were berserk. That was bedlam Saturday night. In the frigid temperatures, it didn't matter. It's a rabid fan base. We know that. But that throw by Caleb Williams was extraordinary. It really was. And the Bears, you can never count them out. Now 7 times they've won a game in the last 2 minutes. And that says a lot about the quarterback and his maturation process. That says a lot about the head coach who came over from the Lions. He walked across the street, stayed in the NFC North. And now he's doing big things with the Chicago Bears. I still can't believe the Packers let that one get away. And look, the defense, obviously, without Micah Parsons, ordinary. Let's be honest. They are awful. Now you're seeing the value of a Micah Parsons on the defensive side of the ball because they missed him. 25 points in the 4th quarter by the Bears. Incredible. Now, if a kicker, now you're going to see a lot of narratives out there about all of this stuff. If the kicker does his job, then we're not talking about all this, are we? Because you had a veteran kicker who's been obviously around the block about as good as any kicker out there over the last several years. He's been around the block. Brandon McManus, he missed 2 field goals and an extra point. They left 7 points on the table. They lost by 4. So that absolutely plays into it. Kickers, man. Like, look at the Ravens and the Steelers. You had a kicker decide the fates of several players and narratives and got a coach fired in the process. Tyler Loop. The Steelers shouldn't be playing tonight. Should be the Ravens. And if the Ravens are playing, Harbaugh doesn't get fired. Tyler Loop misses a 44-yard field goal. And in missing that field goal, he decides the fate of his head coach. And all these narratives that come out about Aaron Rodgers, well, at the age of 42, he's back in the playoffs, and he's taking shots at the Jets. I'm so glad I'm here now, not at the place that I was before, where it was toxic, and he's wrong about that. But now you're hearing all these narratives because a kicker didn't make a kick. If Tyler Loop makes that kick, we're not talking about John Harbaugh out there as maybe the number one head coach available in this coaching cycle where 8 jobs are currently available. Not the Bucs job. But a kicker didn't make a kick. Tyler Loop missed that kick, and you saw the ramifications. Brandon McManus missed 3 kicks on Saturday night. And now the Bears are strutting. Their head coach is in the locker room yelling and screaming. Let me tell you something. Ben Johnson is a freaking lunatic. He's a great coach, but he's an absolute lunatic. F the Packers, this, that, and everything. Game balls being handed out. And he did not back off of that today. Here's Ben Johnson, the Bears coach, when he was asked about what he said about the Packers post-game in the locker room, and he doubled down on it.
There's a rivalry that exists between these two teams, something that I fully recognize and I'm a part of. And yeah, I mean, I don't like that team. So George and I have talked, and we're on the same page.
No. You insulted him a little bit.
You get a little more to yourself. Honestly, I kind of like it. I do. Ben Johnson, man, he is a lunatic. And did you see the handshake, if you want to call it that, with Matt LaFleur when they're both coming off the field? Icy, to say the least. And those two guys hate each other, as we all know. But because of Brandon McManus missing those kicks, now there's questions about Matt LaFleur if he's getting fired now in Green Bay because of a kicker. These damn kickers are deciding jobs. They're deciding playoff fates. They're deciding narratives. They're rewriting narratives. Come on, man. It's terrible. It really is. But that was an incredible game to watch. How about the Rams surviving early Saturday? They're up 14-0, yada, yada, yada. I give Carolina a lot of credit for coming back, and there were a number of lead changes in that fourth quarter. And then Matthew Stafford throws the touchdown to Kobe Parkinson. They ended up escaping. They survived in Carolina, barely, 34-31. So Carolina and Dave Canales, really good showing. They fought hard. They succumbed at the very end of it. Then you had the games yesterday, complete with the 49ers. Let me tell you about the 49ers. I've been telling you guys for weeks. I love Kyle Shanahan. I would give up my entire draft for Kyle Shanahan if I needed a head coach and whatever, things didn't work out. That's how much his weight is worth in gold to anybody else. And I think the 49ers obviously understand what they have in him. Demarcus Robinson, really? 6 for 111 and a touchdown? Demarcus Robinson, this guy's a throwaway. He's a journeyman. They lose George Kittle early. Brock Purdy throws 2 interceptions, and they still find a way to win that game. They beat the Eagles in Philadelphia. The defending champs are out. Oh, cry me a river. To the point where you got little punk kids outside of the stadium, ripping, offensive coaches and this and that and the other thing. You got A.J. Brown going nose-to-nose with Nick Sirianni, and 2 things are going to happen. 1, A.J. Brown's getting traded. That's happening. He's gone. And Kevin Patullo, a USF grad at one point or another, he ain't going to make it either. You know?
You know what I mean? He's gone, and we couldn't do nothing about it.
He's not going to make it, dude. There's going to be some big changes there. I give the Niners a ton of credit. That reverse option pass by Juwan Jennings to CMC, Christian McCaffrey, heck of a call by Kyle Shanahan, and that was the first play of the fourth quarter. Incredible. Kyle Shanahan's the coach of the year. I know a lot has been made of Mike Vrabel and the job that he has done, turning a double-digit loss team into a double-digit win team. He deserves a ton of credit. He's probably going to win it. Liam Cohen deserves a ton of credit for doing what he's done in Jacksonville. Same thing. But I would give it to Kyle Shanahan with all the injuries that he's had to deal with. The Niners are in the divisional round. And Robert Saleh on the defensive side, incredible job by him. Incredible. Jalen Hurts could not push the ball down the field. 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Do you know, by the way, who led the NFL in 3 and outs during the regular season? I hear Bucs fans yelling right now, who's the Bucs? No, it wasn't. It wasn't the Raiders who picked first, or the Jets who picked second, or the Titans or the Giants. The Philadelphia Eagles had more 3 and outs than anybody else. Yeah, you know, except when they played us, I guess. So. But speaking of that Eagles 49, what?
You insulted him
I
a
didn't
little
say
bit.
anything yet, boy. I'm just warming up. I got a lot to say today about a lot of different things, so you better buckle up, buddy boy. But the great Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady called that game. And I got to say this about Tommy Boy. He has improved dramatically as an analyst because he stopped doing it the way a lot of people wanted him to do the job, and he's just leaning. And look, with experience and as hard as he works, and we know he works hard on a number of different fronts, between being an analyst and being the part owner of the Raiders. But I think Tom Brady has improved dramatically at what he does. And yesterday, up in the booth, he went through this soliloquy on how to throw a football in the wind, and it was some of the most compelling TV I saw the entire weekend.
What you see it, and I talk about the point of the ball a lot. You see it from, well, I'll start in this angle. This is kind of like a neutral plane. This is when the point's slightly down. When you're throwing into the wind, it has to be neutral. If the point of the ball is up, any wind friction is going to push that ball up over the top. So as a quarterback, you don't really like that U throw underneath because naturally that's going to point the tip of the ball up. You'd like more of a C or an inverse, a reverse C.
I was fascinated by it. And let me tell you, he's the GOAT. We all know that. The greatest who's ever done it. 7 Super Bowls, including 1 here. He was also one of the great bad weather quarterbacks we've ever seen. So he knows a thing or two from experience, throwing in windy conditions, throwing in rain, in snow. He did it all, and he did it wonderfully. I thought that was compelling, and he's done a great job, and he has improved dramatically from last year to this year, and I thought that was one of the highlights of the weekend. 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. And then you had the Bills up in Jacksonville. Incredible. Josh Allen. That was one of the most physical games, maybe the most physical game of the entire weekend. But Josh Allen completed 80% of his passes. He's throwing to Brandon Cooks, who was on the street just a few weeks ago. Who's he throwing to? Khalil Shakir. You know, Dalton Kincaid caught a touchdown. You know, Jacksonville was pretty good, pretty physical. Parker Washington, Etienne, you know, Trevor Lawrence made a couple of plays. But 2 guys really stepped forward in a big way. It was Josh Allen on offense. It was Tre'Davious White on defense. He saved a couple of touchdowns with some incredible pass breakups. And then, of course, he had the big one right at the end to cause the interception that ended it. That was a gutsy win by the Bills. And Josh Allen, I don't know what more you can say about this guy. He's the best player in the league. He elevates the play of everyone around him. That throw he made of Brandon Cooks right at the 2-minute warning where he's got Devin Lloyd is coming free. Right up the middle on a blitz. And Josh Allen knows with the hurt knee and the finger and everything else, he's been bruised and battered the entire game. He knows that he's about to get eviscerated. And he stands there in the pocket and he makes an incredible throw down the field of Brandon Cooks. Unreal. What about the 10-yard tush push, by the way? Cyrus Torrance, a kid out of Florida. He's a Florida Gator. He's picking up Josh Allen, and he's carrying him about 7 yards toward the goal line. I thought the Bills scored probably a little too quickly. But you know what? With about a minute left, you're going to score so you can score and make sure you do score. And then you count on your defense to make a play, and the defense did make a play. That was a heroic win by Josh Allen and the Bills. Incredible. Now they go to Denver next week. That's going to be exceptional. The divisional playoff games next week also look incredible as well. 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. All right, so after the Bills-Jaguars game, there was a moment that took place during the Liam Cohen press conference. And I could not believe the uproar and outrage that this caused on social media. I got to be honest with you guys, and I think I've said this before, I hate social media. I do. I think it's a cesspool for people who think they know what they're talking about on certain things, but they really don't, without any context or knowledge or experience for that matter. And I didn't realize that people were absolutely up in arms about what was going on during the press conference. So in case you missed it, Liam Cohen was taking questions, just a bitter loss. And this young lady who works for, I guess, a newspaper up in Jacksonville, there was this little back and forth between her and Liam Cohen, and this is what it sounded like.
How you doing today? Lynn Jones, Jacksonville Free Press News. I just want to tell you congratulations on your success, young man.
Thank you.
You hold your head up, all right? You guys have had a most magnificent season.
Thank
And
you.
you did a great job out there today.
Appreciate
so you
it.
just hold your head up, okay?
Thank
and
you,
ladies
ma'am.
and gentlemen, Duval, you the one, all
Thank
right?
you, ma'am.
keep it going. We got another season, okay?
I appreciate
Take
it.
care and much continued success to you and the entire team.
Thank you, ma'am.
That sounds kind of inspiring. That's great. You did a great job, great year, yada, 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 wonderful. While I can respect the sentiment from Lynn Jones, a young lady, the newspaper reporter up in Jacksonville, that is absolutely not the place for it at a post-game press conference. I didn't think it was inappropriate. Look, that is a working environment for, I don't know, people who are in the sports media. When I heard it initially, I thought it was a fan. I go, how do they let a fan into the press conference? I go, who was that young lady? And it turns out, look, this is not a gender thing, okay? This is not a male versus female thing. If a guy did this, I would be saying the same thing. There's a time and place for everything in life. That was not the time nor the place. As an accredited member of the media, you have to act a certain way. There's a code of conduct. There's a certain degree of professionalism you have to conduct during these post-game pressers. You're not allowed to root. If you go into any press box, there's a big sign, no cheering in the press box. When you're in these post-game press conferences, there are question and answers. There are certain people in that room, which I'm sure were mad at this person for doing what she did. Because it's a stain on everybody. And you only have a certain amount of time. It's not a pep rally, folks. If she pulled him aside and told him that, that's fine. But not during the press conference. It was inappropriate. It was out of bounds. It was. Sorry. And then you got all these people. I can't believe it. You're not in the business. You don't know. You don't. I heard Pat McAfee making a big stink about it earlier today. And look, I think Pat McAfee's great. I think what he's done with his brand is extraordinary. But, his assertion that people are miserable, that these sports media people are miserable and they hate their jobs or they hate sports. That's what he said. They hate sports. What are you, crazy? I don't know what kind of people he's hanging around with. That's his business. I don't hate sports. I absolutely love what I do. I have a passion for what I do. And we come in here every day and try and exemplify that sort of passion and professionalism. And when I go to these press conferences, and I've been to a million of them in my life, I've been to locker rooms in my life, there's a certain way you need to act. And there's a certain way you need to conduct yourself. Just like any line of work, there's a certain way. There are do's and don'ts. That's a don't. And it's not me being a negative Nelly. I'm just telling you there's a time and place for everything. That's not the time for it. if she's got a relationship with Liam Cohen professionally, she can pull him aside. Hey, you did a great job. We appreciate the coverage and, you giving us your time. That's totally fine. But not in the middle of the press conference where there are other people. They're trying to ask questions, how you won, how you lost, big plays in the game, what's next, what are you feeling right now, what kind of changes might you consider? Those are the type of questions you want to hear after a team season comes to an end. Not that sort of thing. That's not a pep rally. There's no place for that. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people are probably going to get upset, but that's how I feel about it. I do. And it's not because I'm negative and I hate sports. That's ridiculous in itself. Love what I do. But I just thought that was out of bounds. All right, great to have you with us on this overreaction. Is that an overreaction on an Overreaction Monday? I thought the people that were just yelling at some of the sports media people, I saw Greg Allman and Evan Klosky and even Rick Stroud, all these people going, I can't believe you feel that way. You're not in the business. You're not. Oh, my goodness. Well, listen, we can have a conversation about it. 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. Carmen Vitale at 4 o'clock. The good, the bad, and the ugly in the 5 o'clock hour. It's a pleasure to have you with us here on The Drive on this beautiful Overreaction Monday. All right, when we come back, your calls and texts and everything we talked about. An epic wild card weekend. One more game tonight. Steelers and the Texans from Pittsburgh. We'll get into that as well. Plus, the Buccaneers' search for an offensive coordinator and a special teams coordinator is heating up. Who of the Buccaneers'